Hello, welcome back to Story Time with Aunt Becky. I've got another story to share with you, a Christmas one. This one has a protective jacket on it as well. And if you like trains, you will like this story. This is the jacket cover, the Polar Express. My husband and I went on a train ride for my birthday last year. And we went again this year, not on my birthday, but we went earlier, and we picked up this mini train set. So now we have 3 of them. One is just a little bitty one. One is really big, and it's got a small track that does a loop. And then when we went down to the train this past time, I think in September we got the bigger set. A train isn't as big as the biggest one, but it has more cars on it, and I made a figure 8 loop out of the track, and so it was really neat. So this is the cover of the hardback section, and of course this is the paperback section, the Polar Express. This is by a guy named Chris Van Allsburg. He wrote and illustrated it. Some people can draw, some people can write, and some people can do both. And there is a movie made with the same name, and my husband likes it because now that we are into trains for the past year or so, we enjoy the train story. So this is a good one, The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg, and he has written and illustrated the book. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There is no Santa, my friend had insisted, but I knew he was wrong. Late that night I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. This is about a boy. He's looking out his window there. He sees a train outside of his house. Have you ever seen a train outside of your house? It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe. I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. "All aboard!" the conductor cried out. I ran up to him. "Well," he said, "are you coming?" "Where?" I asked. "Why, to the North Pole, of course," was his answer. "This is the Polar Express." I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard. Here's the train. This is from the cover. I like trains with they call these cow catchers on the front, cattle catchers. This is back in the days when the cows got on the tracks. Not to just push them off, but to move them along. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. And if you've seen the movie and haven't read this book, it is somewhat the same, but a little bit different. The boy didn't just get on the train when the conductor said. Soon there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. Just like in the movie, there are wolves. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we would scrape the moon. But the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. This is beautiful scenery. There's the train going along there. It has lots of passenger cars. This must be out west, because where I live, we don't have mountains like this. The mountains turned into hills, the hills to snow-covered plains. We crossed a barren desert of ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared in the distance. They looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. "There," said the conductor, "is the North Pole." Let's see where the train's at. By all the steam. Like aqueducts, but it's just looped bridges going on and on. The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first, we saw no elves. "They are gathering at the center of the city," the conductor told us. "That is where Santa will give the first gift of Christmas." "Who receives the first gift?" we all asked. The conductor answered, "He will choose one of you." And here they are coming into the city. You can tell where the engine is. That's where all the steam's coming from. "Look!" shouted one of the children. "The elves!" Outside we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no farther, we stopped and the conductor led us outside. Now you can't see it, but all this red is the elves. And here's the train. That's a chimney top. There's lots of elves. We passed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I'd ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart and Santa Claus appeared. The elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and, pointing to me, said, "Let's have this fellow here." He jumped up into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up. I sat on Santa's knee, and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" Santa sang hello. There's a sleigh. It looks like the elves are dragging his bag forward. What would you like for Christmas? I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine, but the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. When I asked Santa, he smiled. Then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from a reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa. He stood, holding the bell high above him, and called out, "The first gift of Christmas!" The reindeer finally standing sedately, and Santa's holding up the bell. There's the little boy. A clock struck midnight as the elves roared their approval. Santa handed the bell to me, and I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Santa shouted out the reindeers' names and cracked his whip. His team charged forward and climbed into the air. Santa circled once above us, then disappeared in the cold, dark polar sky. Here he is, getting ready to leave. You can see all the elves and the kids down there. But at least you can see the elves. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost the silver bell from Santa Claus's sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look for it," one of the children said. But the train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. It's true to the movie was true to that part. There he is. He's lost the bell. And the kids, they so wanted to see the bell from Santa's sleigh. It broke my heart to lose the bell. When the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted. The Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and sped away. You could see the train lights from the different cars through his door and his windows. He is saying goodbye. He had a wonderful time. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I opened our presents. When it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. "Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C." I shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father, "it's broken." When I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. Here he is with his sister Sarah. I have a sister Sarah as well. And she has two of my nieces and two of my nephews. That makes me an aunt. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me, as it does for all who truly believe. There's a picture of the bell. And this is it on the cover. And one year when I was feeling rich, I went to the Hallmark store and I bought a little bell from the movie had just come out and it was really popular. And so I got that bell from the movie. It says, it's got a little tag on it. It says the Polar Express. So I hope you enjoyed that story. I know the first time one of my aunts read it to me, she read it to me and my sister. We were older, but she had the book. And she read it to us, and I had never heard of it. It may have been new back then when she read it to us. We were all still living at home and going to have Christmas. And I enjoyed the story. And now that I really, really enjoy trains now, I guess you could say it's in my blood. One of my grandfathers was really into trains. And so I really enjoy the story now and the movie as well. I hope you all had a very wonderful Christmas. I had a very nice Christmas too. And I hope to see you again in another video. And have a happy new year. If I don't get to say it again, have a happy new year. Bye. We'll see you next time.